With this session update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. Senate Majority Leader Paul Gazelka provided the press with an update shortly after a meeting with Governor Walz and House Speaker Melissa Hortman as they continue trying to reach an agreement on the state's next budget and the federal stimulus dollars. Also, Senator Rich Draheim addressed the press on the Senate's position for an off-ramp to the housing moratorium, and Senate Minority Leader Susan Kent gave her assessment on the progress of the 2021 session. Here are those media availabilities.
Well, I just got off the Zoom with the governor and the speaker, and we're still trying to work through the numbers. He rightly is at the governor's fishing opener. I think he should be there. I think it's important for Minnesota. We're trying to wrestle through a number of issues, and each time we get one little step closer. So it doesn't appear that we'll get done on time, but you need to know that we continue to work towards the things that need to get done. Beyond that, I really can't share where we're at on that. I do want to change gears, and I mentioned even to the governor that I would say that a big frustration for us with the great news from the CDC yesterday, where they lifted the mask mandate. They said, look, you've been vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask, not inside, not outside, not 6-foot distancing. So extremely disappointed that the governor would continue to have the regulations on our schools. I realize it's near the end of the year, but I let them finish the school normally. All the graduations, there may be some proms that are still left. There's no reason that teachers and everybody has to wear masks in school. It makes no sense to me. And we had this opportunity to just lift it all off. You saw Democrats coming off of the Senate floor and throwing their mask up in the air, just excited that we could get back to normal. It's something that we've been pushing for quite a while now. But with that guidance from the CDC, it is time to let our kids enjoy the very last part of the year that was totally taken from them last year because of the governor's rules, and we should not do it again this year. We have clear guidance for many things, and so it's our hope that even yet he would change on that one and just lift it all off and let them finish the school year the way they want to, enjoying each other. There's virtually no risk if you're under age 18 of having anything harmful from COVID. I mean, there's a case here or there, but virtually none. And so, you know, everybody else that wanted to be vaccinated is. I think it's just great news where we're at, but that's one area that I thought you gotta let go of this.
So,
Senator Gazelka, you mentioned that the CDC guidance, though, is for vaccinated people in masks. Kids are not vaccinated. Of course, more kids are becoming vaccinated now. So how do you reconcile those two when you acknowledge that it is, in fact, vaccinated people that with the mask rule?
Because the danger has always been for people that are older, primarily over 70, for sure over 50. Just a few hundred deaths of the 7,000 plus deaths were people under age 50 or so. And so when you get down to under age 30, it's handfuls. It's not very many. And so that's why I'm saying, look, there's no risk to the kids. The adults have been vaccinated if they wanted to. The people that are high risk have the high percentage of people vaccinated. So why would we ruin kids' end of the school year just for that? And then having the teachers also wearing masks makes no sense to me. I know if you look to other states, their public schools were open. We've now lost over 20,000 students from our public school that the teachers union is involved with. They've left. They've either gone to homeschool, which has had about a 50% increase in people doing that, parochial school and charter school. They've left the public school, and we don't know if they're coming back, but it's a result of these extreme restrictions that were not required on some of these other schools, other ways to be educated, nor other states, nor other countries. And so that's why I say there's no risk there. Why would we do this?
Senator, can you talk about so I know you won't divulge too much information from that cone of silence, but the tax issue, tax increases. I know you've drawn a line in the sand since the beginning. The House DFL slightly hinted yesterday, 2 days ago, that perhaps the fifth tier doesn't need to happen this year. Are you getting, I'm trying. Any sense that, that at least that would be off the table?
I will say there's hope. And it's important. I mean, we have, like we said, a $1.6 billion surplus. We have $2.8 billion from federal stimulus coming to the state that we now know we can use completely to handle the budget. And then there was billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that have come to the state, to local governments directly, to our public schools. And so there's plenty of money into the system that we can say there's no tax increase that we need to do.
So back to the COVID risk to people under 18, as I've heard a number of doctors explain it, statistically the risk of getting seriously ill or death is on par as you go down in age with the flu, something that we manage and everything. But the difference with this virus is the predictability, or the lack of predictability, over who might get seriously ill and the unknowns over the long term. And there's a not insignificant number of parents who draw that distinction very articulately and say, because I don't know, I really want to keep my kid safe and support continuing these restrictions in schools. What would you say to those parents?
You know, I would say for those parents that don't want their kids in school, they can still do distance learning through a number of venues, not necessarily that public school, but there are ways to get your kid educated online without being in the public school system. But to shut the entire school system down or bind the entire school system for a few people is a mistake. Many of our kids suffered greatly for not being in the classroom and not being in sports and having to wear masks outside and while they were playing sports. There were so many decisions made that I think were harmful to our kids, and I just think it was the wrong way to go.
But that's not the choice being made here. The choice being made here is about keeping current restrictions, which essentially involve keeping distance and wearing something over your face. And the choice is for them is, do I want my kid to be home because I don't feel they're safe in an unmasked school, or do I want my kid to be in school doing everything that they always would do, but with everyone covering their face?
Yeah, and that's where I'm saying that is going too far on the restrictions. I think they frankly, if they're that fearful, then it would be perhaps better for them to take a different path so the vast majority of kids can be in school and enjoying the school year and everything that is in a school year, from proms to graduations to the sports. Think about the last year plus and all the things that were missed because of how we chose to do it. Not every state chose to do it this way. And then if you add to that, not many countries didn't do it the way we've done it. And it was, in my opinion, the Public Teachers Union working with our governor that made the restrictions more than they had to be.
You guys anyone close on the police issues?
We are talking about the police issues. I believe there's potential to find some things with everyone at the table. I do think there could be some things there.
And are you in alignment with the House R's on full UI conformity? I know you guys have passed more of a limited UI bill up before.
We have had conversations about unemployment insurance, COVID benefits, and paycheck protection benefits, and I believe something will get done for both of them.
Does the likelihood that this continues past the deadline, or past the adjournment date, does that increase the likelihood that we're talking about a bare bones budget at the end of the day, or is there still a bare bones budget, or is there still room for policing, other policy proposals that sort of fall outside the realm of strictly budget only?
We're doing our best to try to find a budget that works good for everyone, and so we are having very productive conversations about the federal stimulus money and all the different thorny issues. There's good conversation happening.
Is it important to reach the targets by Monday, so you let the conference committees, even if informally, meet before the June 14th special session? Is that critical to do?
I think it's important. I don't think it's critical, and I would say that would be the desire of the speaker, the governor, myself, so that the committees can work the way they're supposed to work, and so that's why we're continuing to work, even though we know we're going into overtime. We think if we can get this done, frankly, you could immediately call a special session so that the committees could work formally rather than informally.
What are you hearing from your district? Is there anything that is critical to get done by Monday?
One of the biggest things I hear, the biggest things I hear from my district, that's central Minnesota, circle around the governor's emergency powers. I mean, there's a real frustration in outstate Minnesota, and frankly, it's been over in outstate Minnesota for a while, where a lot of people just aren't wearing the masks, and they got vaccinated if they wanted to, and they're just moving forward. And so those are probably the biggest frustrations I hear. Certainly the small business owner wants the Paycheck Protection Program. The federal government gave that benefit. Most states gave that benefit, but we're waiting for Minnesota. But those are some of the bigger ones.
Where we're at today, I mean, to hear the governor was just granted his emergency powers. I mean, your thoughts on that again?
Say it one more time.
The governor was emergency powers. Just
Yeah.
your
The
thoughts.
executive council
Yep.
just approved them again.
Yep, but it shouldn't surprise me that, well, I'll leave that. But I'll just say, he was forced, in my opinion, to make a move that he wasn't ready to move when the CDC guidelines said, look, everybody can be outside or inside without a mask and not have to distance 6 feet. What I will say that it did, it puts more pressure on them to just start lifting the rest of these. And we do have a plan that passed off the Senate with Senator Draheim. I don't know if he talked to you at all, but with eviction moratoriums, we have a plan to end that. So I think we're in a good spot in that the pandemic and the emergency, for most people now, they would say it's over. And so then how do we get out of this, past the budget that we need, and let Minnesotans enjoy the summer?
Just want to clarify something. You mentioned potentially immediately calling a special session following Monday to let those committees formally work. So would that be the intention, to not wait until you would have to come back anyway in mid-June to call a special session?
So that's a possible direction that we have not communicated or talked about. I'm just saying, if we have targets, that's a way to make it work. But if he gives up emergency powers, then we don't have to come back June 14th, and then the decision of when we come back is totally the governor's. If he still has emergency powers, he must bring us back on June 14th, and then we would stay in session until we got done.
So that's all predicated on whether he gives up the powers and whether you all get targets by Monday, basically.
Hey, you got it.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe you can help me negotiate.
And just to be clear, at this point, your objection to him holding on to emergency powers is most pointed in restrictions that remain in place on schools and those types of gatherings.
Well, yes, certainly the things related to schools is important. The eviction moratorium piece needs to be solved. But I think in the end, people are tired of emergency powers. And even if they're used for a small amount of things, it's the longest by a long, long way, and the first time they've ever been used for any pandemic situation. So as a representative of the legislative branch, we're saying this needs to be over. We need to be working together on everything, and he should not have this extra ability to be above us in a way that was not designed with the separation of powers. So that's why we push. We just say, look, it should be equal no matter what. You shouldn't have this extra carrot back here that you can just take over and have emergency powers. That's why we want them to end.
Just want to talk a little bit about our progress on the conference committees. I serve on 4 different conference committees, and I think probably one of the more important ones I'm on is the eviction moratorium off-ramp bill that we're trying to get done. As you know, a little over a month ago, we passed ours in the Senate with a supermajority vote, meaning a veto-proof vote. And we've been trying to negotiate with the House on their version, and we're a long ways apart. It's so important to give people the help that we have available here in Minnesota. Rent Help MN is the website. I'm going to put a plug in for that. We have the resources, the fiscal resources, to help people out that are behind on rent. But we need to encourage them to do that. In our bipartisan bill, we had a bipartisan working group work on that bill, and it does that, and it does it in stages. The House bill actually extends the eviction moratorium for another year. So it's really not an off-ramp bill, in my opinion. So I urge everybody to contact their local legislators and said we need to get this done, not only for the housing providers, but for the tenants also. So, thank you.
Do you know why, as of 2 days ago, not a single check had gone out yet through this program? Do you know why that is?
It is concerning to me. Part of the reason I think the agency went with an outside company to do it is because they're doing it in other states. And my understanding is that they are paying out in most other states that they're in. I think they're in, at least 8 other states. And last I had heard they were sending checks out in 7 of the 8. So, yeah, very concerning. We've had this money for a while. I know we just got guidance, but it's pretty straightforward. Another concern I have is that the housing providers can't upload more information. They have a copy of the lease. Why can't they upload the copy of the lease and some other things in the portal? So there's some work I think needs to be done, and hopefully that'll get done.
Just want to clarify something. You would prefer to see this bill become law, as opposed to if the governor just ended his emergency powers now and the moratorium ended tomorrow.
Well, that's a good point, and I mentioned to the other side of the aisle that every day I'm losing support in my own caucus to do something. Most states just ended it and relied on the federal moratorium. So I think the advantage of our bill is that it is orderly, and we do break it into sections, and it encourages people to get the help that they need. And that's it, because we don't want a whole bunch of people owing, because they still owe the back rent, and we have the help for them. So I think an off-ramp is the best choice, but I know most states have gone without an off-ramp. But we need to move forward, and I think the CDC announcement yesterday, we're definitely on that path, and I think most of us think we should be a little faster paced on ending everything. So,
what you're calling for right now is for the public to call their lawmakers for. You're calling for support for your bill, pressure on the House and the governor. You're not standing here right now calling for the governor to give up emergency powers on this point.
Well, the way our bill was drafted originally, it did give up his powers for this section of statute.
That statute was included in your bill.
Correct.
The repeal of the eviction moratorium was
Yeah.
included in the bill.
So that was part of our original bill.
But they go in tandem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you replace the eviction moratorium with the off-ramp
Correct. Yep.
scheduling.
Correct.
So if that doesn't, how close is the House to, how closely are you working with them on this? Because the governor says he will not give up the emergency powers if it means the eviction moratorium goes away. That's like the one holdout.
Yeah, and I don't understand that. We've had literally billions of dollars come into the state for unemployment help. So people that were affected by COVID that did not have a job, there was tons of money that came in, and in most cases they were making more money than they were when they were working. If you looked at the job numbers that came out a couple weeks ago, we actually have pre-COVID job opening numbers. I think it was 127,400 jobs that are open across Minnesota. So I think we're running out of excuses to continue this. So we've had the support with unemployment. We have the jobs that are open. And I don't know how many restaurants I went in that have limited their hours or closed one day a week because they can't find enough help. And I've talked to other business owners that are facing the same thing, where they can't find enough people, so they have to limit their hours or their services. So the shots have been available. We're all the way down to 12 years old now. The mask mandate's been lifted. We have the unemployment help. We're running out of excuses, and we have all the jobs that are there. So I think it's time we move on and push forward, and I think our bill does it.
Here it is. It's Friday before session ends on Monday, and we took up a couple of kind of small bills that we don't really think moves anything important for the people of Minnesota. We know we have important work to be doing. Conference committees really weren't even meeting today and making any of the progress that they're supposed to be making. We could be getting things done, and we think that that's just not what Minnesota expects right now.
Since you're not in the cone, maybe this is a moot point, but are things any closer today than they were, say, 2 days ago, to a deal?
I honestly can't tell you. I know conversations continue to happen. I know, it sounds like there was some pretty significant movement after the federal guidance came out on Tuesday. But, the last I heard, which has been a while, it's been fairly insignificant offers being traded back and forth.
In theory, there are aspects of various omnibus bills that can become casualties in a situation like this. For example, one could be the Jason Gomes settlement. Are there any things, that one or others, that you see any chance of being pulled out and actually passed through the chamber in the last few days?
I'm going to say that's one where you're putting me on the spot and nothing's coming to mind immediately.
Maybe one thing.
What?
Well, the eco bill, the eco bill passed out of the conference committee this morning. That's the energy optimization and efficiency. So there's a conference report. It'll now go to the House and Senate. I think it's possible that you'll see that come to the Senate floor before Monday midnight.
So progress on something, yeah. But yeah, it's, we are in this kind of holding pattern, as you all know, and it just feels like this is a big missed opportunity for us to be doing our work and making the progress on the things that we know Minnesotans care about and that mean so much to their lives. There's no reason for us to push everything off until June.
But some of the people in the cone will also say that the cone.
Welcome to Minnesota.
Yes, seriously. I was like, what is this cone? That the federal guidance coming out as late as it did on that money, as Speaker Hortman put it, reset the table. I know there's frustrations from all sides about how we ended up at this place, but is there some latitude with the fact that, there is this just incredible amount of money before them, and there would be no possible way to end on time if this guidance is coming out as late as it is?
Well, I think the reality is we did pass the point of where we could conceivably think we could finish by Monday at midnight. It just takes that long to process the bills and for us to take them all up and pass the conference reports. And the federal dollars, as I've been saying for a while, are a unique situation that it has complicated this process, no doubt. My issue is it doesn't mean we put everything on hold. It doesn't mean we don't have conference committee hearings, we don't adopt provisions, we don't keep negotiating the things that matter so that when we do get the final targets, we can move pretty fast and get it all done.
Senator Draheim was out here earlier talking about the eviction moratorium off-ramp that passed here with a super majority. I know this is a question really for the speaker, but you've got her ear. Are you having any talks with her about nudging that chamber to come a little bit closer? Because it sounds like they're very far apart right now.
And I have to say I have not had a recent update on that particular issue, but I hope we can get together. I know that the bill that came out of the Senate was making progress towards where the House was, but we can't abandon the people of Minnesota on this issue. We know that there's federal money coming, there is relief happening. We just need to give people the time to apply for it and to access it and to make sure that we can keep people in their houses and not face the devastation of an eviction, and landlords support that as well.
Is there anything you're hearing from your constituents that would be a serious problem if not accomplished by Monday?
No, everybody wants to make sure we get our budget done, and we know we do have a little breathing room there. We don't want to push that too late, because the closer we get to, July 1st and the beginning of that new fiscal year, the more complicated that is in terms of our state agencies having to actually start going through the process of preparing to shut down. That takes time, that takes resources, and that is a waste. We shouldn't have to go through that exercise. The sooner we can get everything done, the sooner we can just move along and implement a new budget that hopefully meets these needs.